The other day I saw a video where a Gen Z boy presented his project in a TV show, hoping for someone to buy it. No one bought the project, except for one person who offered a really low amount of money, and the guy didn't accept the offer. So naturally the comments exploded. Gen Z is arrogant. They don't want to work. They think they're worth millions. You know, the usual. And I kept scrolling, reading all these people absolutely convinced that this kid was delusional. But here's the thing. I don't think he was arrogant. I think he was scared of selling himself out. And honestly, good. Because if there's one thing you learn by the time you hit 30 in Europe, it's that selling yourself too cheap is the fastest way to get stuck in a life you never actually chose. And that's the real problem nobody talks about. Not Gen Z arrogance, but the quiet panic of an entire generation trying to build a future that feels completely unstable. Let's talk about being 30 for a second. Because when we were kids, 30 sounded like the moment everything would finally make sense. You'd have a job, a stable one, maybe a house, maybe a family, maybe at least a plan. Instead, what most people have is a LinkedIn profile and a mild anxiety disorder, work contracts that last 6 months, or 3, or sometimes just until the project ends, which is a very polite corporate way of saying, we'll see if we still need you. And you keep working harder, working longer, answering emails at night, on weekends, on holidays, because everyone is afraid of being the one who becomes replaceable. The funny part? We already are, and we all know it. There's this strange pressure young people carry now. It's not just about surviving, it's about performing survival. You have to look productive, look passionate, look like you're building something meaningful, even when inside you're just exhausted. And work used to be something you did. Now work is something you are. What do you do? That's the first question people ask when they meet you. Not, who are you? Not, what do you love? Just, what do you do? As if your job title is your personality. And if you don't have a clear answer, suddenly the room gets awkward. But here's where the real stress kicks in. It's not just the instability. It's the feeling that every choice you make could ruin everything. Stay in your job? You might waste years doing something you hate. Leave your job? You might regret losing the only stability you had. Start a new career? What if it fails? What if you're too late? What if everyone else already figured it out? Spoiler alert, they didn't. They're just better at pretending. And this is where the conflict begins. Regret versus remorse. Regret is quiet. Regret is the voice that whispers, what if you tried? Remorse is louder. Remorse says, you shouldn't have risked that. So, we stay in the middle. Not happy enough to feel fulfilled. Not desperate enough to jump. Just floating. Waiting for a moment where the decision feels safe. But here's the brutal truth nobody likes to hear. That moment almost never comes. And this is why that kid on the TV show mattered more than people realized. Because he said no. He said no to selling his idea for less than what he believed it was worth. Was it risky? Of course. Was it arrogant? Maybe to some people. But there's something deeply honest about refusing to trade your future for a quick validation. Especially when the system is already designed to make you undervalue yourself. Because once you accept that low offer, that becomes your reference point, your market value, your ceiling. And suddenly everyone expects you to keep working for the same price. The irony is that older generations sometimes call young people entitled, but many young people today aren't asking for luxury. They're asking for stability, a stable job, a stable salary, a stable future, things that used to be normal. Now they feel like winning the lottery. And when you're 30, you start noticing something uncomfortable. You're no longer the young potential, but you're also not the experienced expert. You're in this strange in-between space, old enough to feel the pressure, young enough to still be blamed for everything, too young to complain, too old to start over, or at least that's what people tell you. But here's something I've realized. The real danger isn't failing. The real danger is slowly accepting a life that doesn't belong to you. A life built entirely around fear, fear of losing income, fear of disappointing people, fear of making the wrong move. And the weird thing about fear is that it feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels like the smart thing to do. until 10 years pass, and you realize you weren't being responsible. You were just being careful with your dreams, so careful that eventually you stopped touching them. So maybe that Gen Z kid wasn't arrogant. Maybe he was just protecting something, his idea, his belief, his future, and maybe more of us should do the same. Not in a reckless way, not in a naive way, but in an honest way. Because the truth is, most of us aren't afraid of working hard. We're afraid of working hard for a life that never becomes ours. And if you're 30 right now, feeling like the ground under your feet is constantly shifting, you're not alone. You're not late. And you're definitely not arrogant for wanting something better. Just remember one thing: don't sell yourself out. Because the world will already try to buy you at a discount. You don't have to help them.